Mention to go, baby. What's good, guys? Yoku here. And Zenless Zone Zero dropped the new dev talk like last night or whatever. Okay, look, guys, I'm gonna be honest with you. All right, I saw the water, the dripping, if you will. Don't say that in public. Anyway, I saw the stuff. Okay, and I'm really surprised that they dropped this as quickly as they did. Now, a part of me feels like they did this simply because of the fact that it was already out there. We already had all the information, and now they're just like, hey, look, here you go. Right? It's kind of like a what do you call it? Something damage control or PR, whatever. I don't know. Anyway, point being, this is a lot of juicy things. Now, a few of you wanted me to talk about this, which I was going to do it anyway, but I'm glad you wanted me to talk about it because a lot of what's happening in the dev talk is some of the stuff that we've been talking about for a long time. I just had a video recently. I just put out a video and I talked about why Zenless Zone Zero it felt like it was losing its identity. And I read a lot of the comments. I didn't respond to everything, but some of you guys are saying like, I don't feel like it's losing its identity. I feel like it's getting its identity. And that's the difference between maybe somebody that's, and I don't want to say that you guys weren't playing since day one, right? Because I don't know that. That's not fair for me to say, but I want to say that's the difference between somebody that's been invested into the game and then somebody that hasn't been as invested into the game, if that makes sense. And this comes from like the game aesthetic as a whole, right? I'm only speaking for myself in this case because as a lot of you know, I've been invested in Zenless Zone Zero since beta, right? I saw the game, I saw the beta, I played it, I talked about it. They released all the information. They had their very first round table, their very first dev talk. And that's where a lot of the whole like, you said it, they're fighting it, which I never said, but you know, that's where all that came from, was that original stuff. So I've been invested in a long time. When I said it was losing its identity, this is because I'm speaking from like what the project was presented as like, this is what it is. It's like this urban fantasy action RPG, whatever, inspired by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, boom. And now we've gone not so far from that, but we're going away from that. And yeah, some of you guys were mentioning like, is it not okay for them to change and like add new things? It is okay for them to add new things. I don't want a stale game. I don't want something that's just boring and it's stuck the way it is forever. That's why I drop other games. And that's not anywhere near where I was going with my statements or rather my concern with the game. It's more so like, honestly, some of y'all were doing that whole like pancakes versus waffle bullshit and whatever. Anyway, point being is that if I say it's losing its identity, that doesn't all of a sudden mean that I want it to just be stale, right? No, it means that I want it to keep its identity and then grow on top of that. But if you are losing your identity, then it doesn't matter if you're growing on top of that, because my whole focus is that you're losing your identity. I could have a Squirtle all day and night, but if my Squirtle evolves into a fucking Venusaur, I don't have a Squirtle anymore. Right? Oh, but you got a powerful Venusaur, but I don't have a Squirtle anymore. That's the whole point. See how I have to like bring things down to it's always Pokemon that I use, right? Anyway, let's jump into this. So I got this right here, which is the dev talk, the news, and I haven't actually read any of this, but I know a little bit of it. So I'm kind of excited to go through this with you guys. We asked the designers about the topics you care about. The developers have given us a candid response and brought some sweet improvements and innovations in this new appeal. Fairy has already helped the proxies highlight the essential information, the important the important parts right at your fingertips. You can tell I'm a little excited that coffee's finally kicking in. Let me go ahead and open this up if I can. Hello, Zoom. Oh my gosh, bro. What is this? I guess that's the top. Wait, whoa. Is the top, is this nothing? The top is just nothing. Brother, what? Okay, I pretty much have to zoom in all the way to 100%. Why they do this, I don't know, because even on phone, nobody's reading it this way. Then again, maybe it's designed for phone. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, the main story objective lines have been become clear, and more mysteries about the depths of Lemnian Hollow will be gradually unveiled. I know a lot of you guys are excited about the story because of the Ishwin stuff, the Yunquei. A lot of people just really didn't vibe with 2.0 and like what it brought to the table, which I can understand that to a degree. But I don't know, you know, it's one of those things, right? I'm personally a fan of 1.0 more than I am 2.0, but that doesn't mean that I don't appreciate 2.0's story. Again, I just like the urban fantasy vibes, which I still want to know what's up with Bringer, but whatever. The Convergent storylines design structure aims to let players witness the growth of various characters, ultimately taking the stage together. In the future, we will deeply integrate narrative with gameplay to provide more diverse and exciting plot experiences. I think this is only done so well, and I think the problem with doing this, which we had a little revelation the other day on stream. I don't know if you guys have seen the screenshot or the video. Probably you've seen the video on YouTube. It's all of Amphorius, the whole shebang, the entire from start to finish of all of Amphorius. And it is 52 hours long. That is longer than most anime series. Like if you were to watch anime from season 1 to season 2 or season 1 to season 3, that is longer than most anime, right? Like as I think about that, as an entire collective, you watching the entire series of the anime, 52 hours. You are talking like One Piece before One Piece got too extreme, okay? Like 4Kids One Piece, 52 hours. That is what that is, right? You are watching the entirety of 4Kids One Piece by playing Amphorius, hour-wise, consumption-wise. And when I brought that into realization, It's like one of those things where like all of that time being spent trying to pull this entire story together just for you to repeat the process, right? Because that's just Amphorius. You still have Belobog, you still have the Shinzao Lofu, you still have Penacony, and then all the little stories in between that, the events, the mini games, whatever, right? And now Zenless is trying to do something very familiar with what they have going on. And again, I'm not really opposed to it per se, but I think what a lot of people were expressing is that like we don't really like this because it's taking away from, or not even taking away, it's too many characters being introduced all at once, because you know they're trying to sell you the character and fit everything in there. So hopefully what I would like to see them do if they're going to optimize this would be constructed in a way where I was personally a fan of it before, because it fit the special episodes where like they would, it's basically like a whole character arc. You have your main story and then you have the special episode with like, let's say Ellen. All right, so boom, Ellen's limited character, she gets a whole event, she gets a whole special episode, and like you can always go back and play that special episode. And it was her entire volume, if you will, of like everything that she did to get to the point that she is now in the story. And then you can just add more on top of that, right? If you go into the game, which I don't have the game open right now, but I'm pretty sure you guys can do it. You go into the game and you go to the wherever the HUD is, right? The room. You go over to the wall and then you look at all of the different volumes, the DVDs of the movies, right, that you have on the wall, and you can go through and pick one of those. In my memory bank right now is like Rena. So Rena has one. Soldier 11, you literally start the game and you play Soldier 11's, right? And it's their character story, and it's like volume 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, you can always add more volumes, and I feel like if they would have just taken that approach to do that, this would be a much cleaner structure for how they wanted to tell the story, because it doesn't feel overwhelming. And if you do want to know what's going on, then you're more obligated to do so on your own, versus the game feeling like it's forcing you to play along. Because we all know, right, a lot of people don't care about some of these characters. No one gives a fuck. I'm not gonna say no one. No one cares about Panda, you know what I mean? But people do. It's whatever. You get to know the friends early. Since version 1.6, we've been focusing on long-term character development and integration with special attention to key characters and their highlighted moments. For example, in version 2.4, Yi Shunguang will gradually get acquainted with the proxies, revealing untold stories. Clearly, she's a main character, so this makes sense. I understand that to that degree, right? But if she has like a little friend, let's just say like Jafufu was a part of that, and Jafufu was a side character, there's no reason for Jafufu to be like smashed into the main story as much as Yi Shunguang would be, unless she's always attached to the hip. But this is just like character crap that I'm looking at. Can I not scroll down, bro? Hello? Yo, there's no way you're not gonna let me scroll down past this point. Brother, it's right here. Guys, okay, you guys can't see it, bro. Just control plus. I don't want to control plus. I want to use the function on the website that they have, otherwise they should delete the function. I'm gonna read it out loud for you. Will our pals, our old pals, be left forgotten? Where did the initial story go? Worry not. Old friends are always here. While everyone has their own social circles, they'll continue to appear in the proxies' lives and showcase new sides of themselves throughout the main storyline and events, like Venus's new look in the version 2.0 Gravity Cinema event. That's pretty good. I like that. Main storyline is going to have an increased relevance to the AI plotline. So basically they're involving Fairy again. They're making it much more like hacker focused, or they're giving Fairy a reason to exist, because some of you may have forgotten, Fairy, we don't really know too much about Fairy, right? Fairy just kind of showed up. And so that moment in the story, at the very beginning of the story, Fairy showing up and being able to help and just crack down the code of everything and so on and so forth, going through Yun Kuei is just lost. You know what I mean? Like there's not really anything that's helping. And I think that's where my identity thing, and a lot of people agree with me in that video, it's not so much that like Zenless isn't still an action game, right? I think some of you guys are like, oh, it's still an action combat game, the events have action, what are you talking about? That's not what we're getting at here. What we're talking about is the seeds that were planted at the beginning of the game, or like season 1, right? The seeds that were planted in season 1 aren't fully being picked up on. Some of them are being picked up on, like for instance with the proxies and the whole like Sharingan, Renegon, whatever thing, right? That's being picked up on, and then whatever else happened with them isn't. Sons of Caledon was a big part of 1.0 and like how they got to the point that they did. What happened with little tiny short man, the ball round dude or whatever, I forget his name, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Boom, him. Sons of Caledon was a big part of that. And then you had more characters being introduced, Bernice and Pulchra and all that kind of stuff. And then moving forward, Caesar's taking over now. She's pretty much the king of the canyon. And like little things like that matter for those characters as far as their story goes, sure. But they've already been planted to the point where I don't even want to say that the game is forgetting them, because I do feel like season 2 should focus on more of that. But it's almost like One Piece in a way. I don't know why I'm relating things to One Piece so much, but it's almost like One Piece in a way where One Piece moves with the ship, you know what I mean? So like they go from point to point to point to point, but it all ties together, if that makes sense. Something that would have happened in Alabasta would affect whatever's going on in the dang it, it's one of my favorites too, the Thunder Cloud place or whatever, with the white haired guy or the blonde haired dude, but he wears all white, the god of thunder. You guys know, if you watch One Piece, you know what I'm talking about, right? But everything kind of links into place, even with and I won't spoil you guys if you haven't seen it, and I'm not gonna harp on One Piece too much like anymore after this, but even the thing with what happens with Nami, what happens with Robin, and their stories and how they intertwine, everything ties back to like all the stuff that happened each arc before that, or little episodes before that, little events before that. It feels like Zenless is trying to develop their own One Piece, if you will, like this overarching grand story, but it doesn't have a main character. The main character should be the proxies, and I'm not saying that I want that, but the main character isn't the proxies. The main character is the world. The main character of Zenless Zone Zero is literally New Eridu. Like it's the world of whatever's going on, right? Or even the void, if you wanted to think about it that way. But they don't have a main character to follow. That's why everyone has all of their stories splotched together, and they're almost using the proxy as a narrator or a driving force in a way, where the proxy is the sole center of the web, and everything branches out from around the proxy. But as we've seen with multiple stories, for instance, like with Ishwin or even with Miyabi, these things are happening with or without the proxy. The proxy just happens to be usually in the right place at the right time or have the right key for things. But if the proxy didn't exist, the world would be more fucked up, probably, but it'd still be moving along. Urban evolution is the next part. New shops are finally here for real. The 404 era live house, I remember this from the little section in the event, making its debut soon with familiar faces. In front of the 6th Street metro station, the antique shop Bouillon in Felium Heights will be featured in due time. The Hot Pot restaurant will also officially open before season 2 ends. Okay, so pretty much all the fake buildings that we have in the game, or more of the fake buildings we have in the game, are starting to open up, which I think will be pretty good too. Now, this would be a great opportunity for them to dive into like that persona feel that I was talking about in one of my previous videos, right? Where we were not even established. It's kind of what we felt earlier on, but we already have the hangout events from a lot of the characters. We already have the dating scenes, and now we can run around with all the characters like pretty much all day if you wanted to, but there's only so much to do. So if they were to incorporate just that casual urban lifestyle that you can do with these characters, I'm not the biggest fan of parasocialism, I get it, but I do think that adding something like that to a game that's already established this urban aesthetic like Zenless Zone Zero, putting that in the game would only do good for them. Like you can't, no one would complain about that because it's not like it's forced, right? You're not forced to do these things, but having it, you know, almost like in a sense, here's what it is. Going into my whole thing about open world, right? I hate empty open worlds. One of the key things about an empty open world is I saw this, I don't know where I saw this comment from. I'm really trying to remember, but it's recent. Like I literally just heard it last week, or I saw it either on Twitter, excuse me. It was on Twitter, or it was somebody's like videos about whatever reactions, something like that. But they mentioned something about how an open world is the design of an open world, or something about like buildings, and like if the world itself had a bunch of buildings, then that means it's a good open world. But that's not true. And actually, let me full screen for this so you guys kind of like get the full picture with my hands. That's not true. Okay, so open world, a good open world experience. What makes a good open world isn't about how many buildings that you can add, right? How many polygons you can put in there, how pretty the world looks. Like this helps with the open world experience, but the open world experience itself is an amalgamation of so many different things. One of the most important things though, in fact, I believe personally, the most important thing is whether or not the world feels alive. Does this world move without you? I've already established that the proxy, with or without the proxy, everything that happens inside of Zenless Zone Zero would continue, right? But it might be for the worse because proxy saves people and does whatever. But the world itself would continue. Here's the problem after that. The world doesn't move without you being logged into the game. Does that make sense? Probably not. Let's picture Animal Crossing, okay? And I'll put up like a gameplay real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. In Animal Crossing, the characters live without you. In Sims, the characters live without you. If you never log into the game in Animal Crossing, for instance, 365 days will go by. All of them would have lived their life for 365 days doing whatever it was they were going to do inside of the island. They would have moved out or moved in, They would have grown different plants. They would have left the weeds there because for some reason everyone doesn't pick weeds except you. That part is pretty dumb, but hey, Nintendo, it is what it is. They would have fished. They would have participated in tournaments. Somebody would have gotten married if the game allows it to be so, right? All of these different things happen because the world itself is alive with or without you. Once you start the game, the world is alive. Boom, they're already doing whatever they got to do, right? You just help influence or enhance the living experience overall for yourself and for them. That makes a good open world experience. So when you have a bunch of buildings that are just there and like they don't serve any purpose besides to look good, I can't walk into the building. For instance, if you have a cafe, which we do, you go into the cafe and the only thing you can do is buy coffee, which is exactly what we have. That's not a good open world experience. That's a gacha experience, which I've come to understand that very clearly, but that doesn't make a good open world experience, right? You don't get the feeling, there's no experience of you walking into the coffee shop, sitting down, getting coffee, and like, imagine if in Zenless, you could walk into the coffee shop, you could take a seat, order your coffee, wait for a couple seconds, and like all of this is optional, by the way. You could easily just click it, get the coffee, and like skip the whole thing, right? Because you're in a rush, you want to clear dailies. But if you wanted that full experience, you're just chilling, you're on stream, you're doing whatever, going into the coffee shop, you sit down, and then Bernice and Zhu walk in. They have their own custom orders that change, you know, periodically or seasonally. There's new seasonal drinks that you can order that give you different kind of buffs. And then boom, you see Zhu and Bernice sit down, two characters that never really interact with each other, but now they're sitting next to each other, just talking about some of the things that might have happened in the last couple of days, right? Oh man, did you see what happened with Mr. Piedmont or whatever the fuck? Oh yeah, no, I totally like burned his ass. Wait, what do you mean you burned him? Because like, I'm a cop, you can't just go around burning people. Oh no, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. I burned him just like this coffee's burnt. Oh, are you gonna finish that? You should try some nitro fuel here. Like, that whole interaction adds into the open world experience. I know I'm rambling. I know this video is like way different than just the whole like, let's read off the page of what's going on, but y'all know me, I don't really do that. I'm really trying to get you guys to understand when I talk about these games and I talk about the different things that like make something depth and complexity, open world experience, a bad RPG versus a good RPG. All of this stuff doesn't come from like out of my asshole. All right, it comes from previous experiences, and other people who have played these games also share these previous experiences, or at least understand what I'm talking about to have these conversations. But if you've never experienced this stuff, it's really hard to explain it without me just pulling up the example. Moving along, I see that we're gonna have new ways of getting around. I've seen the clips for that. Obviously, I can't show you guys because, you know, LEAKS, but I've seen how you get around. It's like a new tab menu. I've seen the new map integration, again, new tab menu, like, and they're trying to make the exploration of the open world a little bit more seamless. So if you run from one place to the other, again, think of Persona, and this time think of the Persona gacha where like you can go on the train, and then you watch the train take you from point A to point B with like the actual like animation or whatever, and then you get out of the train and now you can walk around the whole city and do whatever, right? That's kind of what they're going for the most part. I'm welcoming this change because with the map system and the new teleports and all that kind of stuff, we don't have to do it, right? But this is one of those things where it's optional. If you want that experience, it seems like they're adding it into the game, which I think will be really cool. A few different collectibles here and there. This one was a little confusing for me though. My bad, I'm not even on the screen. This is what I was talking about earlier, which I kind of explained anyway. You didn't miss anything crazy. This part though, diverse game modes. This one is what I was gonna say is a little confusing for me because this is clearly the mode that just went away, right? The one that we've been asking for them to make permanent, which is the battle camera. I can't tell if they're saying this is gonna be permanent or not because, you know, filtering out promising gameplay mechanics for further innovation. Does that mean they're gonna add the battle camera to the game period, which is what we've been asking for? So it's just permanently available? Kind of like how I think Wuthering, I don't know what that zoom camera is because I can't use it, but I know I can like take a snapshot with a regular camera, and then Genshin has two different cameras as well. And one of them you can make as like an equipable item, so you can take pictures mid-combat. I assume that Zenless is gonna do something like that, but I don't know. Highly reviewed gameplay modes like will be iteratively optimized. Strange word to put right there, but whatever. Adding more content to deliver a consistently premium experience. None of this tells me what this is because I don't know, maybe this is everything that I'm asking for though, right? The camera, the arcade. So I'm optimistic to see what that's gonna be, but I don't know. Hello Zero is getting a massive upgrade, integrating combat and exploration to create a gameplay experience with enhanced immersion and progression loops. Venture into the hollow, gather resources, and grow stronger. Honestly, I want them to fully rework Hollow Zero. It does, well, I guess it doesn't need to be fully reworked, like it's something wrong with it per se, but I want them to make Hollow Zero two big things that I'm asking for. One, I see co-op, so I'm really hoping this happens, but two things that I'm asking for. The first big thing is make Hollow Zero co-op. Give the ability or the option to make Hollow Zero co-op experience, so that if you want to play co-op, you can play co-op, and then like you just clear whatever and you go through it. Second thing, make Hollow Zero more roguelike. With Chaos Zero Nightmare being as addicting as it is, and like all the different builds, I really do feel like if they implemented something like that, if they took what Chaos Zero Nightmare has, or to a degree, there's another game that does the same thing, Stellar, right? Or even if you're not familiar with the gacha games, but you're familiar with other games, dang it, what's the Darkest Dungeon? Or dang it, there's another one, Morimins is something else people are talking about, and then like, but that's a gacha game. And then there's another game that's like Darkest Dungeon that I can't think of either, but even Etrian Odyssey could work. Point being is that you take this concept of being able to run through what would essentially be a dungeon, and you get all these buffs or boost or whatever, you can then save it, and then you can use that in other places. I think what this would help with would help the casualness of the game tremendously. I might be super far-fetched on this idea, but just hear me out. Where I'm going with this is we already have in-game CU defense, we have Deadly Assault, we have Tower, but Tower doesn't get updated, and we have Threshold, and I think Threshold needs to get updated way more often. I think 40 something days is too long for Threshold. If anything, 30 days you cap it, right? Or like 3 weeks. I feel like personally Threshold should be here for the entirety of a character banner, maybe the entire patch, or not the entire patch, but the whole month, which, yeah, 4 weeks, right? The whole month, and then you reset it every month and just go on with that, you know, reset the rewards, reset what you can do, so on and so forth. I think that would be better, but honestly, her character would probably still be better because that's where the trial character is. Anyway, we already have our in-game modes. That's where you're grinding for the grind, right? You're playing the game, you're testing out your team, you're doing your combos, you're getting your rotations down, you're building your characters to the best of their ability. But what about for folks who can't do that, but they want a similar experience? We already have Hollow Zero, but Hollow Zero isn't something that a lot of people are actively playing for the thrill of it. You know what I mean? People are mostly playing that for clearing it for the week and doing their rewards, or they might be doing that money grind, right? You just run through Hollow Zero 20 times and you get like 1,000,000 Denny's or whatever it is. Sure. But if you added something similar to the arcade modes where it's a little bit more fun and you have things that you can do now, when you go through Hollow Zero, you take the build, right? Your deck or whatever, just like in Chaos Zero Nightmare, you take that same build and now you can use it in other game modes that exist that may not be in game, if you will, but it's still something that might present a challenge, right? Like maybe they make their own version of the tower, like the AI tower, where you can take, you know, some of the deck that you built from Hollow Zero and then use it inside of Tower, just for the thrill of it. But like I said, I see that being a great thing. I don't know if everybody else would agree with that, but that's purely from a casual fun perspective. It has nothing to do with game balance. It has nothing to do with whether or not the characters are like fantastic or anything like that. It is what it is. Multiplayer is coming back. I know all of us should be excited for that. If you're not excited for that, you just have no friends and you like to be a loner. I don't know what else to say with that, but this is cool. One of the things that we were having issues with whenever we were first playing the game was chain attacks. It wasn't that we were having issues doing the chain attack, but it was a little confusing on like who would trigger what, how would you trigger it. So to see that they pretty much said, hey, you know what, you guys can actually do chain attacks separately, or you can come together and do them joint, right? Like a joint chain attack. What this would allow you to do is pretty much sync up with each other and then activate whatever it is you need to activate and plan accordingly. It also, from what I saw, I think it's in here, but if it's not in here, I did see that they're gonna have communication features as well. I don't think they're gonna have open mic or like push to talk. That would be great if they did, because then you can cuss out little Timmy, but I don't think they're gonna do that for that exact reason. So they'll probably do the usual stuff where you can send like maybe quick text emojis like, hey, gather up here, group here, attack this, attack here, so on and so forth. Just them trying to go that little bit of a length of a mile. I really do want to see what they're bringing back with multiplayer, because the original multiplayer, again, for those that don't know, that multiplayer was just for material collecting, like going to fight a boss. That was the multiplayer, which is Notorious Hunt. That's it. There was nothing else in the game that was multiplayer. So when people say like, oh, we had multiplayer, we did, but it was only for Notorious Hunt. You could not farm, like just going around collecting how you do in Genshin or doing your gear grind, your artifact, that none of that existed for multiplayer. It wasn't a thing. So I want to see how far they're going to take this. Will they make multiplayer something that you can do across the board? Is it going to be something where we can play multiplayer and we can collect gear together? He's always calling me, bro. God, chaotic, man. I'm recording. Man's bro. Because I know he's going to see this. Man's is always telling me to put in work, right? Get to work, do this, do that. And I'm like, all right, cool, bet. Does never text me, dog. Dude has my phone number and everything. Never text me. He's like, yo, bro, you free for a call? Nothing. Nah, nothing. Call immediately. Man, just living back in the early 2000s, I swear. Moving past that point, we have combat leveling up, which combat level up, I guess that's just a very simple way to say that. But missing your favorite thresholds, threshold simulation is the solution. I said that. Yo, you know what's, oh my God, that's so crazy. I've been talking about this. If you guys haven't been on the streams, you're missing out. Come to twitch.tv/IYOKUU. I do sometimes stream on YouTube now. I'm trying to treat it so where like YouTube gets like 1 or 2 streams a week, depending on what I got going on, but I'm not always doing that. So what I'm getting at here, the thing that I said was that like a lot of players, right? Remember that thing that happened like a couple months back where it's like, oh man, I feel like the game is forcing me to play and build this completely different archetype that I don't want to play. I only want to play Anomaly. I only want to play with Astra, right? Cool, boom, whatever. Threshold simulation was their answer to that. Threshold simulation is the other end game, if you will. It combines elements of Shield defense and deadly assault and a little bit of tower, and then it slaps it into one mode. But it allows you to play all of the characters in the game, even characters that you don't own because they give you trial characters. That is what that's for. So if you only want to play attack comp, sure, only play your attack comp. They even tried to help you out, right? It's like, that's the mode where, oh man, you need 4 teams, you need 5 teams. No, you don't. One of those is optional. Actually, sometimes 2 of those are optional. You don't have to do those particular optional runs. So if you, for whatever reason, only built Anomaly teams, then you have all 3 teams that are only Anomaly and you play the whole game with only Anomaly, right? If you wanted to and you call it a day, the shield buff thing, oh man, they're shielding the buffs, they're over shield, whatever. Threshold doesn't have that problem. Every single archetype and almost every single character has some buff that is specifically catered towards them on that floor. It's impossible for you to play that game or play that mode and not have a buff catered to your team. Otherwise, maybe you're just playing some bullshit. I don't know, but I haven't ran into that issue. So to see them say this exact thing, perfect. The new gameplay mode Threshold Simulation is designed to let the more veteran characters shine and thrive, and will continue to polish and provide a stage for them. So they're not giving up on Threshold either. This is a game mode that they're probably, or we're considering at least some form of in-game, mini in-game, if you will. And it looks like they are going to continue to develop this. That's amazing. The next part, worried about standard character power levels. This is something that was huge. Even I didn't expect this. Version 2.4 will feature specific power-ups for standard characters. Get ready for a fresh take on enemy combat mechanics. I'm more excited about the combat mechanics than I am the standard characters. You guys kind of know why, but I'm only more excited about the enemy combat mechanics because this sounds closer to, hey, we're making the enemies more, not even intense or difficult, we're making them a little bit more advanced. We're improving their AI combat or the AI systems so that they're more responsive or reactive to what you're doing. They're more engaging. So again, this reminds me of just like Monster Hunter, right? So I'm more excited to see what they're gonna do with that. I really hope they bring this home. I don't want them to say this and then like, oh, we added a new move. Now, whenever Butcher does fireball, teleport, instead of teleport, he'll do fireball, teleport, fireball. Oh, that's so I don't want that. I want brand new mechanics. I want Butcher to fireball, you dodged, I teleported behind you and I went for hammer swing, right? Or I did fireball, I stayed invisible and I'm loading my hammer while invisible. And when I'm uninvisible, you'll see the little parry glint and you got 0.5 seconds to respond, right? I know that, oh, I don't want that. That's so hard. Why would you want that? What about the mobile players? I want to have fun with the difficulty in the game. I don't give a fuck about scores. Like, I don't think a lot of you guys understand that when it comes to Deadly Assault. Some of you guys think of Deadly Assault as like just a score. And you think about it that way because of obviously the rewards that are attached to it, sure. I care about the enemy. If tower existed in a way for me to just choose the floor that I want to play without having me grind to the floors to get to that point, I would be in tower 24/7 personally, because I just want to fight the enemy. Again, like Monster Hunter, I can just go pick the quest. If I want to fight Silver Rathalos or the King and Queen of the Sky, right? I can go pick that quest, fight a 7-star Rathalos at the top of Heaven's Mountain or Heaven's Tower, and die as many times as I want to. But that's just me. I like that. Other people don't like that. I've come to accept that. Power up for standard characters. We already knew Soldier 11 was getting something. I think there's another character getting powered up as well. But the fact that this is happening for not just standard character, and I'll go ahead and tell you guys this now, there are 2 different power ups or level ups they're going to be using allegedly. One of them we'll call like power up 1, right, or level 1. This is going to be where a character gets a slight rework, right? It's not a huge kit rework, just a couple moves or maybe a different mechanic, or their core passive gets reworked, something like that. And then they get some damage multipliers attached to them or added into whatever their new stuff is, right? Just update it so that they can fight the current meta. That's all they're doing. There's a second version, which is going to be closer to like what Sambi is, right? A lot of people right now are like, oh my God, Sambi just got buffed. She just got a shield buff. She's getting buffed again, and she's getting another power up. Why do they keep giving her? Because Sambi is that bitch. Let's keep it a buck. Anyway, that is the second version of the power up, right? So the characters that we know that have already gotten this boost so far will be Ellen and Sambi, which means Sambi and Ellen will also be the ones that are the first characters that we're gonna have that are gonna get the level 2 boost, right? So the level 2 boost, like I said, massive kit rework. We already know about that. And it might be little additions on top of that. Think of them as extra mindscapes that you don't have to pay for. So, and what I mean by that is like, so we have M1 and M2, which do a unique thing for Ellen, boom, right? Or for Sambi. But then we might have, I don't know what to call it, so I'm just gonna call it like power up 1 and 2. You might have something called like power up 1, power up 2, and it goes all the way up to like 6, 10, whatever, right? And these power ups will be different moves or added damage multipliers that are crazy good on top of whatever move they already have. Think of Icy Blade, right? So like power up 1 might be, hey, power up 1 gives you Icy Blade. It replaces what you currently have for your Icy Blade, and it gives you the Icy Blade from Hollow Zero, where she can't parry, but it's 45% defense shred across the board against everything that gets hit, plus, you know, 50% crit damage boost, right? Like they're doing something like that from what I've seen. Obviously things can still change, but I really want you guys to understand, like I'm talking on that now because I want you guys to understand how critical something like that is coming into the game. After that, and we're right here at the end now anyway, I know there's a long video, but something like this, there's so much to talk about when you have a lot to say. Increasing the ease of gameplay. Welcome aboard, everyone, old veterans or fresh new faces. We're all family here. We're always welcoming new friends by welcoming newcomers progress. Why can't I read? We're always welcoming new friends by helping newcomers progress faster through the early game and making the game more accessible. I'm completely indifferent on this. I think they're doing a great job of progressing players along to get from level 1 to level 60 or 50, whatever it is, right? I think they're doing a horrible job at teaching players the game personally, but I'm gonna talk on that. Let me read the last bit. Veteran players in version 2.4, Subian's Temple Management welcomes a one-click AFK feature, freeing up your time. Ether battery quick sweep, drive disc substat selection. Whoa, drive disc substat selection and in combat damage compilation. We're finally, this is gonna be massive for not just the theory crafters, but for us like that play the game and are teaching you combos now. We can see in game, based off what this says, right? We can see in game which combos do more damage. No longer do you don't have to calc it anymore. Muzzy, you might be out of you're not going to be out of commission, but now it's going to be so much easier, even for Muzzy, to be able to calc what does what. This is huge. This is and why does EO always compare things to a fighting game? Because that's my home, my bread and butter, all right? But like action games, fighting games, this is something that a lot of these other games have. They have it in a training room or a training lab that lets you do that. What I'm not happy about is I still don't see them taking training room seriously. I need everybody to go inside of the survey and tell them to fix training room, like update training room. There's no reason we should have 95 enemies and training room still has 12 enemies. That doesn't make any sense at all. We should be able to utilize training room, literally tell them to go look at Marvel vs. Capcom's 2 training room or any of the modern day fighting games. Look at a new training room and implement what they have and put it into the game, because it's already coded in the game. It's already coded in the game. The frame data, reading the frame data, the damage compilation, the different enemies, what the enemies can and can't do. All of this is already coded into the game. All they have to do is give us a visual on top of what we see and the options to select it inside a training room. Last thing I want to talk about here was the new player thing, right? Because I did mention that. Oh, why do you think this? I think that Zenless does, again, a good job at progressing you from level 1 to 50. You can pretty much catch up in about a few weeks, give or take, maybe a month if you're super casual, and even a little longer than that. I don't suggest or recommend anyone personally rush through the game to try and get to end game. It's just not worth it. Personally, when you rush to end game, you'll notice quickly that you don't have the resources. And by resources, I mean pools, I mean money. If you're free to play, the materials for you to build these characters. Rushing through the game, you don't have enough to build an entire team. You won't be ready for end game without doing the essentials, right? Like, you actively have to go into the game knowing bit by bit what you're gonna do to be ready for end game by the end of that month, sometime sooner, a couple weeks, whatever the case may be. But as of right now, new players not being welcomed or more accessible to what happens at endgame, this has been a massive problem. This is something that I'm still dealing with personally across the entire community. A lot of players think that they're ready for endgame. They're good. They know what they're doing. They play the team the best, and they don't. You guys have seen tons of comments in my own comment section. You guys have seen comments in Reddit, comments on Twitter. You've seen clips, you've seen videos, everything of players who think they're doing the best that they can. They're perfect. They're awesome. They know the combos, they know the BNBs, they know exactly what to do, but they can't clear. They can't get the score they're looking for. They didn't know this character could do this thing. They didn't know this team rotation could do this. They didn't know about this enemy type having this resistance to this particular type of move. They didn't know you can't freeze them. All of these different, things that happen because the game doesn't prepare you for that, and they're rushing to end game. And I get it. You might just crack out on Zenless one day. Oh my God, I love the game, so I'm playing all day, every day. Sure. But when you're not taking the time to teach yourself all the things that you should know, it's not necessarily your fault until you get to that point. Level 1 to level 50, not knowing all the intricacies of the game, not even the tech, just like the mechanics, enemy details, and so on and so forth, not knowing all of that is the game's fault. It just sucks at teaching you all this kind of stuff. It tries, but it sucks, right? Boom. Once you breach that point though, when you are at endgame and you realize, damn, I'm being met with a lot of things that I just wasn't taught. I don't know these things. And then you don't take the correct course or action to teach yourself or look into the information. Now it's your fault. EO, why do you blame the player? Because the player has been sitting at level 55 for the last 3 to 4 months and they still don't know this information. So I am gonna blame the player. EO, you didn't know that this boss did this thing and you've been fighting this boss for 32 days and 6 nights. That's my fault. 100%. I don't know this thing that I've been actively fighting this thing for 32 days. That's my fault. Period. I can't blame the game. I can't blame the developers. I can't blame my content creator. Nope, that's my fault. Like, taking fault for something that you are in full control of, you can't blame anyone else. However, I guess not even however, on the flip side of that, like I said, the game is at fault up to this point. So when they say they're welcoming new players and like the progress and like making it faster, I don't think that should be their goal. Like, I don't know, maybe that's just my disconnect with the gacha community as a whole. I don't think rushing to end game on a brand new account, unless you're purposely trying to do that, I don't think that's a good play. And I don't think Zenless as a developer team encouraging people to do that is a good idea when they're not helping you learn the game. If a brand new player plays Zenless Zone Zero right now, you probably will have the time of your life, depending on the characters you pull, right? And it'll be fun. You'll be able to experience the story, the events, all the great sides of like what makes Zenless Zone Zero a great game, right? Casual game, whatever, cool. But once you enter that threshold of like Shiyu defense and Deadliest Soul, and you want these clears, you're touching end game, you're gonna quickly like, oh my God, you're either gonna love it or hate it. And we see it every day. I don't want to keep rambling because I really want to edit this dispatch video. We had a lot of fun playing dispatch last night. It was cool. Again, come out to the stream if you want to see that. I will be live. After this video goes live, I may or may not be live. Don't let me lie to you, because like I gotta edit the video. So I'll probably be live tomorrow. What's tomorrow? Tuesday? I will be live tomorrow. We'll be playing Dispatch episode 5 and 6 tomorrow. We blitzed through episode 1 and 4, but it is what it is. Anyway, I can't say my user outro because it's inappropriate for YouTube. Like the video, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Like I said, I know this is a super long video, but when you have a lot to talk about, when I've been holding on to a lot of these different things, I've been talking about this stuff on stream, off stream, in my Discord, to my other friends, whatever, and to see them come out and just drop a dev talk right after we saw all of those leaks, yes, this is absolutely something that I needed to deep dive into and really just talk about all the different things. Hopefully we see a lot more improvement because we need it. Smell you later.